Welcome to the good life.
It's your weekly wellness check-in.
Welcome to the good life.
This is Good Living with Bradley Knight on Good Hope FM.
Good life.
The wait is over.
As you already know, October is Mental Health Awareness Month, and today on Good Living with our resident psychologist, Mr. Bradley Knight, we discuss autism and how it can be treated. And joining us in studio is Associate Professor John Joe Dawson-Squibb, who is the Principal Psychologist at the Division of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry at the Red Cross War Memorial Children's Hospital. Welcome, guys, and thanks for being here.
Awesome. Awesome. I love being here. I got to just say that. And we, John Joe and I were just chatting about how I don't know how Carissa does it to be up this early in the morning doing TV and then still being, bright and sprightly this time of the day.
Are you telling me I look fresh still?
You got it rocking on,
Like
and
your secret. We want to know.
She did give the secret. I just don't know if we're going to try those out.
Yeah, no, I don't know if we can.
Tell them I told you it's actually lashes and lip eyes.
I don't know about that one. Anyway, it's always, like I said, always good to be here. It is the wrap-up of Mental Health Awareness Month, and of course, time for your next edition of Good Living, your weekly mental health check-in. And again, as Carissa mentioned, our topic today is autism. Our special guest, Associate Professor John Joe Dawson-Squibb. He is the Principal Psychologist at the Division of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry at Red Cross War Memorial Children's Hospital. Let me get that right. And also jointly appointed at UCT's Department of Psychiatry and Mental Health. John Joe, thank you for joining us today, and absolute pleasure to have you. I know you're a busy man, but thanks for the time today. Firstly, just before we dive in and talk about autism, tell us about the team at the Division of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, better known as DCAP. So who's on the team, and what is it that you guys do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, for sure. So it's such an awesome team. It's in Rondebosch, based at Red Cross, as you know, because you worked there for a bit.
I did do time there.
And
best time of my life, actually.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. So we got a multidisciplinary team, right? So we've got different professionals who work there. Children need input from lots of different people. So we've got psychologists, psychiatrists, we've got social workers, nurses, and we have kids from not quite zero, because they're probably still shaping up, but from about 2-3 years old up to 18, and we see them. They come in either as outpatients once a week, say, or we see them as an inpatients as well. We have a few kids who stay with us for a little while as well. So it's a lovely team trying to support, and we have a few trainees as well, like you were back in the day,
like
in
as
your
an
younger
intern
years.
and my ComServe years, yes.
Exactly right.
Okay.
So we're a teaching hospital as well.
Fantastic. All right, so our topic today is, by the way, big shout out to the team out at DCAP. Autism, also known as Autism Spectrum Disorder, ASD. So let's jump right in there. What is autism, just in layman's terms, and how does it present?
Right. And there's all sorts of acronyms. So your ASD and Asperger's and Aspies, autism. So basically, I'm going to call it a neurodevelopmental disorder. Fancy term, so that's going to mean it affects the brain, and it affects the brain's development. And the idea is that it affects two main parts. So if you're somebody with autism, it's the one part is going to be difficulties with social communication. So that's going to mean it might be harder to make friends. That's going to mean maybe your eye contact is a little different from others. It might also mean your language is a little different. Maybe how you speak. You speak a little fast, or you speak in a more monotone way, or you speak too loud or too softly. And then some of the words that you use might sound a little different to other people, or unusual. Social communication. Mm-hmm. And there's also something about reciprocity. So you and I, Brad, are having a back and forth conversation. Somebody with autism might battle with the back and forth. The other area is restricted behaviors or restricted interests, repetitive behaviors. So that's going to be things like being super interested in some areas. So Roblox is a computer game. Some kids with autism are all in. You know this game.
I do. I know of Roblox.
But then some kids have really unique interests. So I worked with a kid who loved vacuum cleaners. Knew all the makes and models, right?
Oh,
like
wow.
If you wanted a vacuum cleaner, he was your man. He'd tell you what it costs, where to get it. And that's a little unique, but that's his interest. But other things can be more challenging. So difficulties with being flexible. So wanting things to be done in a certain way, maybe having difficulties if you can't eat with the same knife and fork, or you can't go to school in the same way. And then there's the sensory piece. So that's going to be things like man, I don't like the tag on my shirt, or I don't like certain smells, or if a motorbike goes past, Brad, you're a motorbike owner,
Yes.
you're going to put your hands to your ears, right? And it's going to be quite overwhelming. So when we think about autism, those are the two areas. Obviously, as kids get older and become adults, it might change how it looks, but you'd expect it to look in those two areas.
All right. And, this again is always our reminder that we don't want you to just hear what we're saying today and then self-diagnose. We don't want you to go online and self-diagnose. This takes a lot of work to get diagnosed, and we're going to find out exactly how that's done today. Right here, joining us in studio, Associate Professor John Joe Dawson-Squibb, Principal Psychologist out at DCamp Red Cross War Memorial Children's Hospital, and big shout out as well to UCT's Department of Psychiatry and Mental Health. We'll be
Welcome
back.
to the good life.
It's your weekly wellness check-in.
Welcome to the good life.
This is Good Living with Bradley Knight on Good Hope FM.
Good life.
The wait is over.
It is Good Living with Mr. Bradley Knight. We've had a fantastic start to the conversation, and of course we have to continue down this avenue. Now, of course, October is also Mental Health Awareness Month, and today on Good Living with our resident psychologist, Mr. Bradley Knight, we're discussing autism and autism spectrum disorder and how it can be treated. And joining us in studio is Associate Professor, I just like saying his name, John Joe Dawson-Squibb. He's here.
Pretty
He's the
cool,
Principal
man.
Psychologist at the Division of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry out at the Red Cross Hospital. And it's so great to continue this conversation, Brad. It's a cool name, right?
Yeah, I'm telling you, and Principal Psychologist basically means he's the boss.
Oh, that's a boss
with
name.
a psychologist,
All right,
no,
so
but
JJ is JJ's
we'll go with JJ.
No, we'll go with the full name. So, Prof. John Joe Dawson-Squibb, I want to find out on my part, how and where do you actually get diagnosed with autism? Is it hereditary? Does it get passed down? And how common is it really?
Right. So, I mean, in the break, you were telling me you and TikTok are good friends.
Yes, we are.
So you actually know quite a bit about autism
she does.
already,
She
I
does.
think.
I like to think so.
But it's good. It's good to hold on to social media, and TikTok gives us tons of information. But also, we want to make sure it's correct. So you tell me if I'm getting this right. So it's about 1% of the population. Some studies, but more, but less, like 1 in 100, give or take. Boys more than girls. That might be because we're not picking it up quite as much in girls because they present a little differently. But basically, if you were concerned about your child getting diagnosed, you go along to a healthcare provider, so GPs, psychologists, psychiatrists, even speech therapists, OT. Usually we have a few people involved in being in the diagnostic process. And probably as a starting point, they do some kind of physical examination to make sure what's going on isn't because of some other physical reason. But after that, they take a really detailed history. They want to hear about how you make friends, how you're getting on at school. They might even go out and do a school visit with you. Definitely want to chat to your parents, speak to the teacher. They'd want to see how you get on in structured environments, and then when it's a bit unstructured at break time, are you kind of on your own and just doing your own thing, or are you able to mix in the melee of 1,000 other kids? There are also some sort of more detailed questionnaires that Brad remembers from his Red Cross
the
time.
ADOS, right?
We do the ADOS sometimes, so that's when we spend a bit of time in using a structured assessment. And we also like taking a detailed history. So from when you were very young up until as you get older, watching how things change, because we'd expect you'd always have some of those social communication, restricted, repetitive interests and behaviors going on. So that's broadly what we do. Brad was saying to me I should give a plug to the Red Cross, but here's what I'm concerned about. Suddenly we get a ton of referrals coming our way. So let me back up a little here and say there's loads of people who can do really good assessments for autism if you're concerned. So starting point, if you're going government, you'd go to your local clinic, your local CHC. You'd probably see a GP there or even one of the nurses. They'd do a screening and they'd refer on as needed. If you want to go private, of course, that's some option as well. So basically, that's the story. Your question about is it hereditary, and I said that's a fancy word, and you said I watch TikTok.
If my mama's got it, do I have
there we
it?
go. Exactly right. So it's definitely more common. or definitely passed down to genetic condition. So in terms of, you might be asking, what causes autism? So it's probably not one cause. We know that there's definitely a strong genetic factor, but there's also some environmental factors. Brad wants to ask about vaccines. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
So in terms of the causes, if you're born very premature, very early, if you're born with very low birth weights, if you have older parents, you're more likely to have autism. But I guess what's key here is you don't just get autism, right? You get born with it. And that's a really important thing to point out, because often parents will be blamed. You're not you're not doing the right thing. They're watching too much TV. They're playing too many computer games. That's why they're autistic. And I'd really want to make sure we get the message straight here. You're born with autism. There's things parents can do, which we might get onto, but importantly, largely genetic, some environmental factors, and you're born with it. Does that
such an important point to make today? And also just very important to stress that there are treatments available, there are interventions available if this is something that you've discovered about yourself or your child. All right, so we are going to be back with some very important information about some of those treatments and interventions. And there have been questions around some of the controversies, some of the questions around, are vaccines in some way involved with, triggering autism? So I think just to perhaps address some of those myths, some of those concerns that people sit with, and all of that will be answered. Stay with us right here on Good Hope FM, your weekly mental health awareness check-in on Good Living. We'll be back in a moment.
Welcome to the good life.
It's your weekly wellness check-in.
Welcome to the good life.
This is Good Living with Bradley Knight on Good Hope FM.
Good life.
The wait is over.
That's right. We're feeling optimistic today. We're feeling uppit, and that's because we have an amazing guest in studio, don't we, Carissa? So great to have Associate Professor John Joe Dawson-Squibb, Principal Psychologist out at the Division of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, and also a joint appointment with UCT's Department of Psychiatry and Mental Health. If you've missed the first part of our interview, please go and get the podcast and so that you can catch up on this. And a big shout out to everybody joining us on all the social media platforms as well. Great to see you. So we've got a little bit of time left, and I'm just wondering, I think there were some questions around treatments.
Yeah, I had so many questions. JJ, now we're on familial terms.
I
think we've made it there. What treatments are best for people with ASD or autism? And is there a cure? Is there treatment? How do you sort of work around that space?
Right. That's a really nice distinction. So there's no cure for autism. It doesn't just suddenly go away, but there's definitely treatments. There's definitely things we can do to make it better. Probably the starting point is understanding what your profile is. So you spoke about mild, moderate, severe. If you do a really good assessment, you can say, well, I've got these sensory difficulties, or I really struggle with making friends. And then the target of your intervention, your treatment, is on that. So it's not a one-size-fits-all cookie cutter. That's important. Psychoeducation, super important. What is autism? How does it present with my child is key. And then there's something about evidence-based treatments and interventions, right? So there's so many people out there. You guys are in this group of people with good intentions who really want to help make a difference. But sometimes we do things just because we are desperate and want to help, but it's not actually making a difference. So going out there and finding what are the treatments that really change things is so important. And we'll talk a bit later about controversies, but there are some crazy, wacky things happening out there. So check in with your healthcare provider and find out, is this something that really helps, or am I getting taken for a ride? There's also something about awareness we call the 3 A's of autism. So awareness of what autism is, then acceptance of the diagnosis, right? This is autism. And the last is appreciation. Maybe you've got things that are difficult and hard, but hey, we've all got real strengths. And I've met so many people with autism who are doing incredible things with their lives, and not forgetting, actually, you can flourish and live a great life.
Yeah.
So holding on to that, but I guess more specifically is children, speech therapy, occupational therapy often comes up, and schooling. We really want to emphasize that kids in the right school environment, school understand what autism is, how they can be helped.
Would that be a good idea to perhaps, if your child was diagnosed with autism, to have them placed in a school that
That's a good question.
What we would refer to as a special school.
Right. So not always. Okay. We spoke about that spectrum. So there's many kids with autism. I have family with autism. They're going to regular
mainstream schooling.
Right. They're doing really good things. So they might need a few adaptations or a bit more awareness from the people teaching them. But we're trying to get away from, if you've got autism or if you've got some kind of diagnosis, that necessarily means you should be in a particular school.
Yeah.
Actually, we can accommodate, society can kind of change
Absolutely.
what we do rather than saying they're wrong.
And pathologizing this, because people with autism might also have very strong abilities, that individual strengths, the ability to learn information that otherwise people who don't have autism couldn't do, they excel in certain ways.
Exactly, they pick up details so much quicker than many of us, and knowing what their strengths are and encouraging those, letting them flourish.
Okay.
Super important.
All right. And being able to think creatively. So this is not just like, oh my gosh, this is something that is going to be a roadblock for me the rest of my life. All right. So with the limited time we have left, JJ, I'm also going to go that route. There have been lots of controversies in recent, months just around like, are certain painkillers responsible for triggering autism or responsible for this, coming into being. Some people are worried about having their kids vaccinated, just the normal schedule of vaccinations. Could you just briefly speak to that? Should there be concerns around that?
So short answer is no. All the evidence we have, all the things we're reading up on, and this is an area that's been properly investigated, vaccinations don't cause autism, to the best of our knowledge. Now, maybe something changes, maybe we hear more, but right now as things stand, if you want to, if you're concerned about autism, you're born with autism, it doesn't just happen because of vaccination. We definitely want to encourage people to get vaccinated. If people are not in agreement with that, I'd love to read up more and learn myself and read the research, but to the best of our knowledge, for sure you should get vaccinated. And the same with pain medication. I think you might be referring to a president somewhere out there, but short answer is no.
All right.
There's the scientific community is pretty clear on that.
Great. And of course we're referring to the normal developmental vaccinations that a child would have during the course of their developmental years. Now, let's speak to the parents, because I think this is an important point just to wrap up with. What message do you have for parents?
I'm so pleased you brought that up, because we know that parents who have children with autism are more at risk of depression, more at risk of anxiety. So we want to make sure they get tons of support for themselves. And we also want to make sure they get the skills to deal with the children that they love and cherish, but also advocate for those children, making sure that there are the supports, that they get access to those supports. So if I had a key message, I would say, there's support out there, there's real hope, there's good things that can happen, but you just keep pushing through and make sure you get to speak to the people who can support you.
All right. So where could people go? Who could they call?
A ton of great organizations out there in the Western Cape, Autism Western Cape, more broadly Autism South Africa. Both have good websites. There's the National Autistic Society. There's also the International Society of Autism Research. Quick plug. It's the biggest research organization globally on autism. We've got the international conference coming here in 2027, first time in Africa.
Great.
So there's big stuff happening in the autism world, which is super exciting.
All right, there we go. That's a wrap from us today. Thank you very much to Associate Professor John Joe Dawson-Squibb, Principal Psychologist out at DCAP, Division of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry at Red Cross War Memorial Children's Hospital, and also jointly appointed with UCT's Department of Psychiatry and Mental Health. That's where we are today. Just a reminder, if you're going through a tough time, you don't have to go it alone. Speak to somebody. Our friends at the South African Depression and Anxiety Group have a 24/7 toll-free line available in all 11 languages, 0800 567 567. And if you missed out on anything, catch that podcast. We'll join you again next week, Thursday at 1 o'clock on The Lunch Club for your weekly mental health check-in.
Feel it. For more, tune in to goodhopefm.co.za.
It's all you need.